He said, the forthcoming March meeting between President Trump and President Xi, that does raise the question of how the US sees China. You mentioned you're convinced still of the fundamental strategic competition between the US and China, in which, for various reasons, including Chinese policy towards India, particularly on our long disputed frontier, we would naturally tend to be wary of Chinese blandishments and more receptive to any American approaches. But if the same President Trump is talking about a G2 and talking about implicitly carving up the world into spheres of influence that might essentially relegate India to the Chinese shadow, if not the Chinese orbit, where would that leave us? I mean, these are questions we have to ask as we look at the US-China relationship that you've alluded to.
We are not going to leave Asia to the Chinese. It's not going to be a Chinese sphere of influence. We don't act according to spheres of influence. We have a basic view that has dominated American foreign policy since the get-go, which says that we are a regional hegemon in the Western Hemisphere, and we will not tolerate any other great power dominating either East Asia, Europe, or the Persian Gulf. The idea that we're going to allow China to create a sphere of influence in East Asia is beside the is just not realistic. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Well, that's a welcome assurance, Professor. But then let me push back in a slightly different direction. You talked much earlier about multilateralism and multipolarity. One of the ways in which India could have served as a balancing figure, as a balancing power, would have been by a strengthened role in multilateral global institutions in an increasingly multipolar world where India's influence in a number of forums might have counterbalanced China's. Now what you're seeing is with Trump's and the US's retreat from and withdrawal from a lot of these multilateral institutions, the very institutions in which India is seeking greater representation and influence have become less relevant. So how exactly does the US serve its own cause by abandoning India on the multilateral ship, as it were?
Well, the United States does not even serve its own cause by greatly reducing, if not abandoning, these international institutions. I think there's no question about that.
World Trade Organization, World Health Organization, the UN, and of course, in your hemisphere, you've got the uncertainties around the European Union and NATO as well, don't you?
I agree 100%. There's no question about that. But I would just say, as a good realist, India's principal concern is more strategic than it has to do with international institutions. And the fact is that the Indian-China competition is only going to grow more intense with the passage of time. There's already a significant conflict up in the Himalaya Mountains along the line of control between the Indians and the Chinese. Both sides are building up their military forces there. China and Pakistan are going to be closer and closer allies with the passage of time.